Keep your cool to supersize and grow your business. Cool as a cactus, cool as a cucumber, cool as a whatever this thing is. These are actually teethers for my granddaughters and an ice pack for when they get owies, and they are freezing cold. Over the last couple of days, it's been very warm in my neck of the woods. I live in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin doesn't usually get that hot, but in the summer, we get a couple days over 100, and it's been super hot, super humid, and just kind of miserable. And so I think I always want to move down south, and then we have days like this, and it reminds me, okay, I can stay inside when it's cold. I can stay inside when it's hot. I guess I could do the same thing down south. So keep your cool. That's our idiom today. I'll talk about a couple of ways that I personally keep my cool, because I have been known to have a hot head or a temper once in a while. When I was a little girl, my family created a motto for me, or a reminder, and it was pop the cork. Now, I still cringe a little bit if they ever bring that up, because for a long time, and especially as a little girl, and I was really little when they would say that, and they carried it throughout high school, college, and into my adult life for a while, until I got annoyed and said, listen, I really don't need the pop the cork thing anymore. I've learned to control my temper, and I don't just explode. I still do sometimes over things that are ridiculous, but I try to keep my cool, and I'll share some of the ways I do that. First, let's talk about where this idiom came from. It's a relatively new idiom, although the precursor to it, meaning unflappable, meaning to not get upset over anything, is from the 1800s. But to remain calm and to chill out and relax, type keep your cool, was slang from the 1900s, and specifically probably the 1960s. It came from something called, I want to say, beat slang. If I recall, I did not write that down, but I think that it did. But it basically means we maintain a calm and cool composure during especially stressful or emotional times, right? We don't fly off the handle. We don't need to pop the cork because we're not flying off the handle. We do and react to things in a reasonable, rational way, keeping in mind the results that we want to get, the outcomes that we really want. So we don't want to just explode emotionally or respond emotionally if we give it a couple of minutes thought. And I learned this about myself a long time ago, especially with my kids. I always say no first, and then I use that to buy myself time. And my kids figured that out long before I consciously was aware that I did that. But they knew that if they just took it and then went away for a couple of minutes, I would probably go find them and say, okay, yes, you can do that. But I always wanted to buy myself time to think about the pros and cons of a particular request before saying yes. But in challenging, emotional, volatile circumstances, how do we keep our cool? How do we maintain our composure and not, say things we might regret, or take actions and steps that we might regret later on, or that we have to apologize for or reverse, because that's always embarrassing, and none of us want to be embarrassed as we're growing and building and supersizing our business. Some of the things I do, and one of the first things I do, is I take a deep breath, and then I buy myself a couple of seconds of time to decide how I want to respond. And sometimes how I want to respond is, hey, I'm not even going to address that right now. Give me a few minutes and I'll come back to it. I learned from my parents a long time ago, in addition to popping the cork, that sometimes I need to count. I'll count to 3, I'll count to 10. Sometimes I got to count to 100 before I choose to respond. Following my sudden cardiac arrest, I, for the first time, learned that it's okay to just walk away from an engagement that is not going well. I was in a meeting with a city council member in one of our neighboring businesses, and they had the most ridiculous requests I've ever heard of one business to another. And I looked at my city council member, I looked at my business partners, I shook my head, and I walked right out of the meeting. I walked away, I went back to my own business, and I sat there for a few minutes and was surprised at myself, but I felt so much better, because it was just a type situation. I was like, I don't want to participate in this anymore. So nowadays, following that event, I gave myself permission to choose not to participate in a situation, especially in a communication that isn't going anywhere positive. So walk away. Sometimes I just give myself a timeout, and I say, all right, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to have a timeout. I need to think about this. I'll get back to you tomorrow, etc. So that I don't respond in ways that I don't want to. And that's the ways I keep my cool. I also have ice packs, cold drinks, whatever works for you. We have to figure those things out and have those at the ready, because I guarantee as you're building your business, stuff is going to come up that irritates you or makes you mad, and you don't want to necessarily lash out or respond with anger, especially when we're growing our business, and especially with the people that we're teamed up with and that we work with. We're going to always have disagreements that we do in any relationship. Love to know your experience with this particular idiom. Keep your cool. What's your way for keeping your cool in a tough situation? Share in the comments below so we can learn from one another. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? And how might you use it to grow and supersize your business?